Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are opening up a file that feels less like a standard fiction review and more like we're reading a ghost story from a future that almost happened. We are looking at Salvation City by Sigrid Nunez. And I have to say, looking at this stack of notes, the premise here is it's uncomfortable.
It is.
It sits right in that uncanny valley of too soon and, exactly what we need to talk about.
It is uncomfortable. And honestly, it's meant to be. I mean, it's a book that doesn't just ask you to read it. It kind of asks you to relive certain anxieties that we've all, to some extent, tried to bury over the last few years.
Right, because we're dealing with a coming-of-age story, pretty much. We're following a young boy named Cole.
Right.
But the context, the air he breathes, the ground he walks on is a devastating global flu pandemic. And before you check out, because I know pandemic fatigue is a very real psychological phenomenon, this isn't really a story about a virus, is it?
No, not at all. The virus is just the mechanism. It's the scenery. The real story here, and I think the real mission of this deep dive, is to figure out how a human being, specifically a child, rebuilds a sense of reality when two completely contradictory worlds collide.
Exactly.
Cole is essentially the battleground between a hyper-anxious, secular, intellectual, urban life, and then this fatalistic, fundamentalist, rural life.
It's almost a sociological experiment. You take a kid from the ultimate blue state bubble, drop him into a red state bubble, shake the jar with a global catastrophe, and see what breaks.
That is a perfect way to frame it. I mean, that's exactly what we're doing. We're going to trace Cole's psychological fracture. We need to look at the before his life with his parents, Miles and Serena. We need to look at the after his life with Pastor Wyatt and Tracy. And we're going to unpack some heavy themes. The hygiene theater that we all recognize now.
Yeah.
The fragility of memory and the secret, often dark lives that children hide from adults.
And when we say dark lives, we mean it. This isn't like the Chronicles of Narnia. This is a kid holding on to secrets that would crush most adults.
Absolutely. The source material here is deceptive. It's written with this clean, almost detached prose, but underneath, it is teeming with psychological horror and some really profound questions about how we live.
So let's start with the before. Because to understand why Cole ends up the way he does, to, understand the fracture, you have to understand the Vining family. Miles and Serena.
Miles and Serena, they're fascinating characters because they feel like caricatures until you realize you probably know 5 couples exactly like them.
Right.
Or, if we're being honest, we might see a bit of ourselves in them.
I definitely felt called out reading about them.
Well, let's look at the profiles. Miles is a history professor. He's an intense guy. A marathon runner.
Right.
His nickname in college was actually Miles and Miles.
Which suggests a certain relentless energy. You know the type, the guy who isn't just into fitness, he's aggressive about his vitality.
Exactly. He attacks life. And then you have Serena. She's a former lawyer who hated the law, moved into arts management, and her nickname is even more telling. Serena Anything But.
Serena Anything But. Wow, that is biting. It implies she is never satisfied. She's always defining herself by what she isn't or what she refuses to be.
She is the embodiment of modern high-functioning anxiety.
Yeah.
And together, the Vinings are obsessed with correct living. I mean, they treat their life like an optimization problem.
Yeah.
They aren't just living, they're curating a lifestyle.
Let's talk about the electronic diet. I was reading about this in the source material, and it felt like every New Year's resolution I've ever broken.
It's incredibly extreme, though. They decide that the modern world, the internet, the noise, the connectivity is rotting their brains. They believe they're losing their cognitive edge.
Okay.
So they implement these draconian rules. No multitasking. That's a big one.
Which is almost impossible in the modern world.
For them, it's a moral imperative. If you are eating, you are only eating. If you are reading, you are only reading. No idle web browsing.
None at all.
They cut out social networking entirely. They're weaning themselves off YouTube like it's a narcotic. They are trying to purify their cognitive intake.
But they take it a step further than just no phones at the table. They start controlling their sensory environment physically. They actually plug their ears.
The earplugs. This is a detail Nunez includes that really paints the picture of their neurosis.
Yeah.
They start wearing earplugs to protect their hearing and to help them focus.
Yeah.
But they don't just wear them while reading in the study. They wear them in public.
In public.
Yeah. They wear them at home while doing chores.
It's like they are trying to edit the soundtrack of reality.
It is. It's this physical manifestation of their desire to block out the noise of the world, both literally and metaphorically. They want to curate exactly what enters their consciousness. It's a defensive posture.
Yeah.
They're protecting themselves from an abrasive world.
It screams control freak. But here's the paradox I found interesting. For people who are so obsessed with safety, I mean, Serena's terrified of cancer, Alzheimer's, identity theft, they seem to have a massive blind spot.
That is the central irony of the before section. They worry about everything.
Oh.
Serena makes this dramatic statement about how she'd rather be killed by nature than by a suicide bomber.
Wow.
They have plans for everything. They read studies. Serena lived to say, I can show you the studies.
I can show you the studies. That is such a specific type of modern armor, isn't it? The belief that data protects you.
Right. But when the flu starts making headlines, they dismiss it.
Why? I mean, if you're that anxious, wouldn't a pandemic be your number one fear?
You would think so. But it comes down to hubris. It's a kind of class-based hubris. Serena says, we Vinings are made of sturdy stuff.
Okay.
They believe that because they are educated, because they have access to modern medicine, and because they are smart, they are immune to history.
Immune to history. That's a powerful phrase.
They think pandemics are things that happen in 1918, or they happen in developing nations. They don't happen to people who subscribe to the New Yorker and wear earplugs to focus.
They believe their lifestyle is a shield.
100%.
So while they are ignoring the looming threat, they are inflicting this major disruption on Cole. The move.
The move from Chicago to Little Leap, Indiana.
And Serena is not handling this well. For a woman who claims to be so adaptable, she is, losing it.
Not at all. She views Indiana as a cultural backwater. She's brutal about it. She complains there are no museums, the food is terrible, the climate is miserable, and everyone is right-wing.
So everything.
Everything. She feels like she's been exiled to a foreign country.
She laughs until she cries when she hears the name Little Leap.
It's a hysterical laugh, though. As panic masquerading as humor, she feels like her life is over. She finally had a job she loved at the theater in Chicago, and she had to give it up for Miles's job at a college in Little Leap.
But there's a secret layer to this move, isn't there? Something Cole knows that his father doesn't.
This is where we see the burden Cole is carrying. Cole is an observer. He's always watching, always listening. Maybe because his parents are often plugged up with earplugs, he has to be the one paying attention.
That's a great point.
He overhears his mother talking to her sister and Addie.
Addie, the twin sister who lives in Berlin and has total freedom.
Right. Addie is the road not taken for Serena. And Serena admits to Addie that she feels she has done her duty. She's planning to leave Miles.
So the family's already broken. Cole is walking around with this grenade in his pocket, knowing his mom is planning to bail once they get settled.
Exactly. He's the keeper of the family's impending destruction. He knows the unit is a sham, and that knowledge just isolates him. He can't talk to his dad about it, obviously.
No.
And he can't talk to his mom because she doesn't know he knows.
And that's not the only trauma he's sitting on. We have to talk about the nudity, because the source material keeps coming back to this, and it seems to be the root of a lot of Cole's issues later on.
It's a core trauma. It shapes his entire view of sexuality and adulthood. There's a specific memory where he walks in on his parents.
They're all lying there.
Lying naked on top of the covers in broad daylight.
Which, for a kid, is shocking.
Yeah.
It's seeing your parents as animals, basically, but it's the parents' reaction that seems to do the real damage.
Right. If they had just covered up and yelled, "Get out," maybe it would have been fine. Standard embarrassment.
Yeah.
But the Vinings don't do standard.
Yeah.
First, they pretended it didn't happen. Then they insisted on talking about it because they believe in open communication.
Yeah.
And then, and this is the worst part for him, they teased him about it.
They teased him.
Yes, they made light of his shock.
And that shame just calcifies in him. He vows that no one will ever see him naked.
Ever.
He develops this repulsion toward the physical reality of sex. He describes it as grayish pink flesh. He says it looks like meat that had turned.
That is a visceral, disgusting image.
Yeah.
Meat that had turned. It equates intimacy with rot. It does. And it's compounded by another memory. Later, he walks in on them fighting, and he hears his mother say something devastating. She says, "We never fuck anymore anyway. What the fuck do you care?"
Wow.
Imagine hearing that as a child. It confirms his suspicion that the nudity he saw earlier was a lie or a performance. And Cole snaps. He tries to be the grown-up. He tries to hurt them back.
What does he say?
He says, "Sure, I know. You guys were just rehearsing for a play."
Oof. That is such a sharp, cynical thing for a child to say. He's weaponizing their own intellectualism against them. Oh, it's just theater.
He is. He walks away feeling this cold satisfaction. But notice what he's doing. He is learning that intimacy is dangerous, that bodies are gross, that adults are liars who perform roles.
So he decides to perform one himself.
Exactly. So when he gets the Little Leap, he decides to play a role too. He decides to reinvent himself. He's the new kid. He's terrified. So he lies.
The sheepdog lie.
It's the classic new kid trauma. The teacher stands him up. The class is staring. He feels the sweat. He sees the bullies, Les and Pete Drucy. And he just blunders into a lie.
Okay.
He mentions they can have a dog now. And for some reason, he says he wants a sheepdog.
Even though he had a basset hound named Sadie in Chicago.
Right. He abandons the truth of his old dog. But immediately after saying sheepdog, he regrets it. He sees the bullies sneer. He thinks, I picked a girly dog.
It's tragic because he's trying so hard to fit into this new masculine rural culture, and he fails immediately. He hasn't even learned the lines for the play he's trying to act in.
He doesn't know.
Yeah.
And that's the interesting thing about Cole. He's fluid. He's trying on identities. He's trying to figure out how to be a person in this new hostile environment. But before he can figure out who Cole in Indiana is, the world stops.
The onset of the plague, or as the kids called it, the dude flu.
Dude flu.
Let's unpack that name. I mean, it sounds like a joke.
Dark humor. The virus had a specific profile. Unlike the seasonal flu that hits the elderly or the very young, this virus was targeting young, healthy adults. The dudes.
Which is terrifying. Usually we think of the flu getting the vulnerable. This was getting the strong.
It implies a cytokine storm reaction, where the body's own robust immune system overreacts and kills the host.
So the stronger you are, the faster you die.
Pretty much.
And the book details this slow creep of disaster. It starts with what the source material calls hygiene theater. And oh boy, did this part hit close to home.
It's spot on. The smell of Lysol everywhere, the clean hands save lives mantra posted on every wall.
But the author does a great job of showing this through the eyes of middle schoolers. To them, it's not scary at first. It's a joke.
Exactly. Give middle schoolers squeeze bottles of goop, and they're not thinking about sterilization. They're thinking, I can squirt this on Jason's pants.
It became a game.
Quite a game.
There's that scene in the auditorium that I found both funny and disturbing. The Elmer Fudd official.
Yes. A health official comes to give a presentation, and he has a severe speech impediment. He sounds like Elmer Fudd. And the kids, well, they're kids. They're laughing.
He's trying to tell them about the 1918 flu, about millions of deaths, about the seriousness of the situation, and they're just giggling at his vowels.
And then he shows the video, the hazmat suit slaughtering chickens.
Cole didn't believe they could catch every chicken.
No, he has this fantasy of chickens escaping. Ain't nobody here but us humans. But then they show the pigs being killed, and that upsets him.
He liked pigs.
He did. But look at what happens next in the video. It shifts to people picking their noses.
And the girls scream, vomitus.
Vomitus. Oh, that's the word. It highlights the absurdity of trying to teach hygiene to teenagers. They are more disgusted by the social taboo of nose picking than by the existential threat of a pandemic.
They aren't grasping the mortality of the situation.
Not at all.
And the elbow bump?
The elbow bump. The official tries to sell this as the new handshake, and the kids just mock it. It's this perfect example of how adults try to impose order on chaos, and kids just see it as another weird rule to ignore.
But the fashion was kind of cool.
Apocalyptic chic, surgical masks with vampire fangs painted on them, or smiles. It became an accessory. It became a way to signal identity, even as they were losing their faces.
Until it wasn't funny anymore.
Until it wasn't. The turn happens fast. The first wave was mild, mostly hitting nursing homes. But the second wave, that was the killer.
And there's this specific failure of the college quarantine plans that I think is really important to discuss, because this feels the moment society actually broke.
This is a major plot point. The government had a plan. They weren't unprepared. The plan was, if an outbreak happens, keep the college kids in the dorms, quarantine the campuses.
Which makes sense.
Epidemiologically, it's the only move. Young people are super spreaders. They live in close quarters. Keep them contained.
But the parents?
The parents lost their minds. They were outraged. We want our babies home. They threatened lawsuits. They drove to campuses to pick up their kids. They broke the quarantine.
And inadvertently, they spread the virus into every household in America.
It's tragic irony. The parental instinct to protect is exactly what doomed them. It speaks to this tension between individual rights, my right to see my child, and collective survival. And in Salation City, individualism won, which means everyone lost.
And that includes the Vinings.
Yes. Miles gets sick.
He comes home looking smudged.
That's the description. Smudged. Like he's been rubbed with newspaper. He says he feels like he's been hit over the head.
And Serena's reaction? This is where the sturdy stuff facade cracks.
It shatters. She becomes robotic. Cole compares her to the pod people from Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Wow.
She says, "Don't touch Cole. Don't go near your father."
She stops being a mother and starts being a frightened animal.
She is. And she's watching the news. Cole sees her watching footage of corpses being swung onto pyres by men in hazmat suits.
Pyres. In America.
That's the signifier of total collapse. There are no morgues left. There are no funerals, just mass burning. And Cole sees his mother, this woman who is so articulate, so in control, so proud of her studies, just gasping for air.
And then they're gone.
They're gone.
The source material glosses over the actual death part, jumping us to the after. But the absence is loud. Cole survives. His parents don't.
The before world didn't just fade away. It was deleted. And that brings us to Salvation City, or the house of Pastor Wyatt and Tracy.
The afterworld. This is a hard pivot. We go from the history professor and the lawyer to the pastor and Tracy.
Let's talk about Pastor Wyatt first. PW.
PW, he is.
Intense.
He is. Cole describes him as having Holy Spirit high beams.
The eye contact.
He locks in. He has this way of looking at you that feels like he's physically holding you. Cole found it disturbing at first, but people love it. They feel seen.
But the thing that Cole really fixates on is the hands.
The hands. This is such a crucial detail. Cole is obsessed with PW's hands. They are white, soft, and they smell like vanilla.
Cookie dough. Cookie dough. And Cole specifically notes that they look like hands that have never known germs. They are the antithesis of the smudged look his father had. They represent safety.
It's interesting because Cole is a boy who has been traumatized by flesh, the grayish-pink flesh of his parents, the rotting meat idea. But PW's flesh, these soft, manicured hands, is soothing to him.
It is. It's a clean flesh,
Yeah.
purified flesh. And PW is very open about his body in a way that isn't sexual but is very intimate. Tracy gives him manicures at the kitchen table.
And Cole watches this.
He watches it with this mixture of fascination and embarrassment. He feels like he's catching them doing something illicit, but it's just care. It's tenderness.
Yeah.
Something the Vinings, with their debates and earplugs, rarely showed.
Let's talk about PW's theology of death, because this is a huge shift from Serena's "I'd rather die by nature" speech.
PW never says past.
Serena hated the word past. She thought it was a euphemism. She made Cole say, died.
Died. Say died, pumpkin. She wanted him to face the brutal reality. But PW says, went home.
Went home.
But only for the saved.
Ah, right. If you're unsaved, maybe you just died. But for his flock, they went home. And he says his job is to teach people not to be afraid of death.
Stop wasting energy being all headless and fearful like a herd of spooked cattle. That's his philosophy.
Wow.
And think about that for a second. For a boy like Cole, who has just watched his parents dissolve into panic and death, that certainty, that refusal to be spooked, must be incredibly seductive.
It's a warm blanket. It tells him, you don't have to be scared like your mom was.
Exactly. But then, there's Tracy.
Tracy, PW's wife.
Cole struggles with Tracy.
He does. And this is where we see the remnants of his before life, the influence of his parents. He judges her hard.
He calls her intellectually lazy.
Which is such a Miles Vining insult.
It is. He hates her language. She uses baby talk. She calls an umbrella a bumbrella. She calls an alarm a wham room.
She calls PW YYY.
And Cole is just cringing inside. He's looking at this woman who is feeding him, clothing him, loving him, and he's thinking, she's an idiot.
She's his homeschool teacher, too.
Which is torture for him. But there's a complexity to Tracy that Cole misses at first. She's a cancer survivor.
Right. She had cancer. She's infertile. That's why she doesn't have her own kids.
And despite that tragedy, despite having her own before and after with cancer, she is relentlessly positive. She feels blessed. And Cole, with his Vining cynicism, finds this baffling. He thinks it's fake.
There's that moment with the ceramic bunny. I felt this was a turning point for Cole's understanding of her, even if he didn't fully get it at the time.
Oh, this scene breaks my heart. Cole is a clumsy kid. He accidentally breaks this ceramic bunny that Tracy loves, and he freezes.
Yeah.
He's expecting the reaction his parents would have had.
Stress, anger, a lecture on the value of objects, a discussion about carelessness.
Exactly. The Vining response would be to analyze the error. But Tracy, she forgives him instantly. She says, Jesus hates when we care too much about some silly old thing.
She detaches from the material object immediately.
It's a profound lesson in values. She values the boy more than the object. It shows a spiritual resilience that his parents lacked. But Cole, he feels guilty.
He feels guilty because she's nice, and he knows he secretly dislikes her.
He's holding on to that secret. He's eating her food, living in her house, and judging her the whole time. It's a heavy guilt.
Which brings us to Cole's internal world. Because on the outside, he's adapting, he's the good boy, he's going to church. But inside, it's a mess.
It's a neurological and psychological mess. We mentioned the brain fog.
Yeah. He can't remember things.
It's a common symptom of the after. The text says even the president has it.
The president has brain fog.
That's what they say. It's implied that the virus, or just the sheer trauma of the era, has damaged everyone's cognitive function.
Wow.
Cole can't remember if it was his mom or dad who swore. He can't remember details of his old life. It's like the hard drive has been partially wiped.
But while his memory is fading, his senses are dialing up to 11, specifically smell.
This is a very primal shift. When civilization recedes, the animal instincts come forward. Cole becomes hypersensitive to smell. He categorizes the world by scent.
Old people.
Smell bad. Except for his great-grandmother, Ginya, he notes.
Okay, but
Smell good. Horses, dogs. He prefers them to humans.
There's that scene with the homeless man on the bench.
He runs away. He flees because of the smell.
Ugh.
It's a physical aversion to humanity, essentially. He can smell the decay, the dirt, the humanity on people, and he hates it. Except for PW's vanilla hands.
And he sneaks into the bathroom to smell that hand cream?
He does. He uncaps the bottles until he finds it. It's his secret ritual. He sniffs the vanilla to soothe himself. Is his drug.
It's like he's self-medicating with the scent of safety.
Exactly. It's a scent that masks the smell of death he associates with the rest of the world. But he keeps it secret. He hides it, just like he hides his disdain for Tracy.
But he's also a teenage boy, so we have to talk about puberty and the apocalypse. Because hormones don't care about the end of the world.
If anything, they get more confusing. The red mouse.
The red mouse. This is slang for menstruation that he hears from the bullies.
It's this crude, confusing introduction to female biology. And Cole is navigating crushes while the world is falling apart. He's obsessed with Kaylee.
The apocalyptic girl. Green nail polish. Nose stud.
And the dark circles under her eyes.
Which he finds strangely attractive. He wants to kiss her under her eyes.
It's a very specific goth-adjacent attraction. He sees the trauma in her face, and he's drawn to it. But he had that painful interaction with her.
The why don't you just take a picture moment.
Ugh, I felt that in my soul.
Yeah.
She catches him staring. She calls him out. Why don't you just take a picture? And he tries to be cool.
Right.
He tries to come up with a witty, Vining-esque comeback, and he fails miserably.
And he carries that regret. He wishes he had taken a picture. Because now in the after, he doesn't know if Kaylee's alive or dead.
That is the ghost that haunts him. He wonders about the bully's lesson, Pete. He wonders about Kaylee. But he doesn't ask. He keeps it inside.
He maintains this barrier. He doesn't tell PW he hates Tracy. He doesn't tell anyone about the hand cream. He doesn't tell anyone about his desire to just grow up.
His mother used to talk about precious kid time.
She wanted to protect his childhood. She wanted him to play, to be innocent.
And Cole thought that was totally whack.
Yeah.
He wants to be sprung from the trap of adolescence. He just wants to be an explorer. He wants to go to Africa with PW.
He wants agency. He wants to be able to do things, not just be protective.
Which brings us to the big picture. The clash of these two worlds. We have science versus faith, urban versus rural.
This is the core sociological argument of the book. In the before, the Vinings relied on science. They relied on government plans. Cole read about the detailed flu disaster plans.
The plans to mobilize troops, keep the electricity on. They had it all on paper.
And those plans failed.
They failed because they accounted for a disruption, not a collapse. They didn't account for human nature, for the panic, for the parents storming the colleges.
And PW's take on this?
PW says the government isn't going to save you.
Count on God.
And neighbors. Reliance on God and neighbor. It's a localized survival strategy versus a centralized one.
Right.
And in the context of the book, the localized faith-based strategy is the one that is currently keeping Cole alive and fed.
It's hard to argue with results when you're a hungry orphan. The cultural backwater that Serena mocked Little Leap, Salvation City, is the only place offering salvation.
It is, and it forces us to ask, what holds society together? Is it laws and disaster plans?
Yeah.
Or is it community and shared belief? The book suggests that when the lights go out, the community of belief is more durable than the community of law.
And the class divide. It's still there, inside Cole's head.
It is. Miles disdained his students for not reading. Cole disdains Tracy for the same thing.
Yeah.
But there's a question of utility now. What is the value of knowing history or literature when the world has reset?
Tracy knows how to quilt. She knows how to make ceramics. She knows how to care for a child.
She's useful.
Mm.
Niles. Well, knowing the history of the 1918 flu didn't save him. In fact, his knowledge might have just added to his anxiety.
We also need to talk about the language of death again. Died versus past.
It's the ultimate semantic battle. Serena wanted precision.
Yeah.
Died. She thought past was silly.
A euphemism.
But PWs went home.
Mm.
It's not a euphemism to him, it's a destination. It's a geographic fact in his mind.
And Cole is caught in the middle. He tries to follow PW's advice. The best way to remember people is to remember the good about them.
But he finds it hard, because remembering the good means remembering the loss. And remembering his parents also means remembering the anxiety, the fighting, the nudity, the secrets. He can't just edit his memory the way PW wants him to.
So synthesizing all this, Cole goes from being this anxious kid lying about a sheepdog to fit in to a survivor smelling vanilla hand cream to stop the nightmares.
He is a study in resilience. But it's a strange, mutated kind of resilience. He is adapted by compartmentalizing. He has locked away the before in a box of secrets, and he is performing the after.
Do you think he belongs to either world?
That is the question, isn't it? He wasn't fully avining. He rejected their anxiety. He rejected their precious kid time. But he isn't fully a believer like PW or Tracy either. He judges them. He holds back.
He is an explorer, just like he wanted to be. But he's exploring a new emotional continent.
Alone.
Alone.
Oh, that connects to the so what for our listeners. We often think of children as these passive victims of trauma. But Cole is active. He is actively constructing a reality that he can survive in. He finds comfort where he can, in a smell, in a secret.
It makes you wonder about our own carefully constructed plans. We have our electronic diets, our studies, our insurance plans.
And they can be wiped out overnight.
So here's the final thought I want to leave everyone with, and it's a bit of a provocative one. If our modern anxieties and our intellectual approaches to life, the Vining method, can just crumble, is the intellectual approach actually any more valid than the blind faith approach?
Is it better to understand the mechanics of the virus and die in panic?
Yeah.
Or to misunderstand the word umbrella but live in peace?
And does Cole have to choose? Or is he the bridge between the two?
That is something to mull over.
Definitely. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Salvation City. It's a heavy one, but a necessary one.
Absolutely.
We'll see you next time. Stay curious.
And wash your hands.
Too soon.
Never too soon.
Bye, everyone.